This is Barbican, or Aldersgate, or Aldersgate Street, or Aldersgate and Barbican. Basically, this is a station with a lot of names. Let's dive into it, shall we? Aldersgate was one of the gates of London's ancient city wall. This dates back to the Romans. Actually, the present name, Barbican, originally referred to a fortress attached to the wall. This is a very old part of the city, is what I'm getting at. The station is considerably less ancient, dating from the 23rd of December 1865. Not the oldest part of the Underground, but not too far off. It was built by the Metropolitan Railway as part of their extension from Farringdon to Moorgate. In those days it was called Aldersgate Street. Local legend has it that it was built on the site of a house owned by William Shakespeare. But there's some dispute over whether this was the William Shakespeare. Another legend has it that it's built on the site of a plague pit. There was a plague pit, but at nearby Charterhouse Square, not here. These days, the Metropolitan Railway, or the Metropolitan Line as we know it, is an urban commuter line. In fact, the term metro literally comes from the Metropolitan Railway. But when it was built, it was conceived as something quite different. Building surface railways in the City of London was prohibited, except for all the times when it wasn't. But in theory, you weren't allowed to build a surface railway in the city. The idea behind the Metropolitan was that it would connect the different termini that lie outside the city, and get around the prohibition by running underground. Admittedly, it didn't run very far below the ground, but it's the spirit of the thing. Not only was it intended for the Metropolitan to act as a railway in its own right, but it would also be a means for other railway companies to access each other's lines, and the lucrative sources of traffic to be found in the city. And that brings me on to this. One of the things I get asked about a lot is, what's the deal with the abandoned railway track in Barbican? This is a very busy station with a very frequent service, yet half of it is unused. Well, this was originally part of the city widened lines. The Metropolitan Railway was so successful right out of the gate that its directors realised that it was about to become a victim of its own success. It couldn't provide the intensive service commuters demanded and provide timetable slots for other companies. So the city widened lines were a second set of tracks between King's Cross and Moorgate, intended primarily for the use of other companies. The Great Northern Railway began serving Aldersgate in March 1866. The Midland Railway joined in 1868. Now, when Barbican was Aldersgate Street, it looked very different. It was a 3-storey building with a canopy. The platforms were originally timber and covered by a large overall roof, not dissimilar to the one at Farringdon. You can still see the brackets where this used to be. In 1910, the station's name was changed to Aldersgate, and in 1923 to Aldersgate and Barbican. The first of the big changes came during the Second World War. This area took a pasting from air raids, and the station was no exception. The building was reduced to a single story. But rather than rebuild the station as it had been, after the war it was decided to scale back. In 1955 it was demolished. The poet John Betjeman was very upset, but then he would be, it was his local. He wrote a poem, Monody on the Death of Aldersgate Station. Barbican, the area, is probably most famous for the Barbican estate and the Barbican Centre. This enormous and often controversial development was built to replace the heavily bombed streets left over after the war. The presence of the underground was seen as a bit of a problem by the architects Chamberlain, Powell and Bonn. They argued that it was noisy and visually intrusive. That being said, I've seen plenty of people argue that the Barbican estate is pretty visually intrusive in itself. It's all a matter of taste. Regardless, it was decided to divert the lines between Moorgate and Barbican and build over the top of them. The new tracks were built in a concrete tunnel, inside which was laid a sort of bridge. Between the bridge and the tunnel floor was a layer of rubber bitumen to dampen the vibrations and reduce the noise. While all this was being done, an office block was being built on the site of the old station building which contained the station entrance. The entrance also connects with the high walks that characterise the Barbican estate. Some rather unexciting canopies were put up on the station to replace the old roof. On the 1st of December 1968, the station took the name Barbican, which of course it retains today. The abandoned platforms look like they've not been used in decades. In fact, they closed in 2009. As part of the Thameslink programme, Farringdon's platforms were extended and blocked off the route to Barbican and Moorgate, ending national rail services. The abandoned platforms were turned into a pop-up garden in 2015, which is now being removed. Apparently, the lines are to find a new use as part of the improvement works on the subsurface underground lines, though exactly what this entails remains a mystery to me. In 2022, Barbican gained a new connection, albeit one that's not very well signposted or publicised. From the westbound platform, it's possible to access the Elizabeth line. The new platforms at Farringdon are so long that they in fact reach Barbican. Or, to put it another way, there's now a tube service from one end of Farringdon station to the other. Well, I hope you enjoyed this roofless tale from the tube. If you did, please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more. I would like as ever to thank my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon and here on YouTube for your always appreciated support. You are the Barbican to my Aldersgate. And I will see you all again very soon for another tale from the tube.